Solving equations with a variable on both sides. The problems in this section are the most complicated and involved, but they're not too difficult once you have some practice and experience under your belt. So we have these steps to solving any equation. The first step is going to be simplification, which means if there are any parentheses, we want to distribute into the parentheses, and if there are any like terms, then we want to collect or combine those together. From there, step 2 is to kill off the smaller x if there are x's on both sides of the equation. And then our last step is ultimately to isolate x by undoing whatever has happened to x. So exercise 1, solve the equation 1a, 4x minus 6 equals 6x. So for this problem, first step, there's no parentheses and there are no like terms on the same side. Note that there are multiple x terms, but they're on different sides of the equation. So step 2 is to kill off the smaller x. And so if you take a look at the problem, we have a 4x on the left-hand side and we have a 6x on the right-hand side. Which x is smaller? It's the 4x term. So what we want to do is we want to kill off the 4x, and the way that we're going to do that is we're going to subtract 4x from the left-hand side, and if I do that to the left-hand side, I need to do the same thing to the right-hand side. Now the equation will leave us with negative 6 on the left-hand side and positive 2x on the right-hand side. Now that we have killed off the smaller x so that there is only one x term, we can then isolate x. In this case, the 2 in front of the x means that the 2 is a multiplier, and so to undo that, we are going to divide both sides by 2. And this leaves us with negative 3 equals x. In exercise B, we have 8x minus 1 equals 23 minus 4x. So our first step is to eliminate parentheses and combine like terms, but just like the previous problem, there are no parentheses, and while there are multiple x terms, they're on different sides. So there are no like terms on the same side to combine. Step 2 is to kill off the smaller x. So note, for this problem, we have an 8x on the left-hand side, and we have a negative 4x on the right-hand side. Well, between 8x and negative 4, which number is smaller? It's negative 4. So we're going to kill off the negative 4x. Now the way we kill off the negative 4x is we need to add a 4x to the right-hand side, and then we need to do the same thing to the left-hand side. And so on the left-hand side, we have positive 12x minus 1 equals 23 on the right-hand side. And now that we've killed off the smaller x, we want to isolate x. In the previous class, I told you, typically speaking, this means that we want to undo the addition or subtraction in the problem. So to undo the negative 1, we will add 1 to both sides, giving us 12x on the left-hand side and 24 on the right-hand side. Now we'll divide both sides by 12. Oops. In doing so, gives us x equals 2. Moving on to part C, we have negative 12x plus 95 equals 8x plus 15. First step, there's no parentheses and there's no like terms. We'll worry about that on the next page. So our second step is to kill off the smaller x. Now we have negative 12 on the left hand and we have 8 on the right hand side. Be careful here, because negative 12 is is considered a smaller value, and so we want to eliminate the negative 12. And so we'll add 12x to both sides. So on the left-hand side, this gives us 95. And on the right-hand side, we have 20x plus 15. Now that we've killed off the smaller x, we will try to isolate x. And for this problem, this means subtracting 15 first from both sides. This gives us 80 equals 20x. And then dividing both sides by 20 gives us 4 equals x. Okay. So again, notice that between negative 12x on the left-hand side and positive 8x on the right-hand side, negative 12x is the smaller x, and so that's the one that we kill off. As it turns out, if you don't do it in this exact order, it is still possible for you to get the right answer, but when you don't kill off the smaller x, you're going to run into more negative signs, which typically means that you're more likely to make a mistake. Whereas if you solve the problem using my method of killing the smaller x, you're less likely to make a mistake. Now for part D, we have 2 minus 5k equals negative 3k minus 21. So just like all the other problems on this page, there is no simplification to do. So the second step has us killing off the smaller x. And between negative 5k on the left-hand side and negative 3k on the right-hand side, the smaller x is negative 5k. And so we will add 5k to both sides of the problem. This gives us 2 equals 2k minus 21. And now we can move on to isolating k. And so the way we'll do that is we'll add 21 to both sides. Giving us 23 equals 2k. And then from here, we'll divide both sides by 2, which gives us, well, 23 over 2 equals k. Right? Not every answer that we have will be a whole number. Sometimes we have fractional answers. Moving on to the next page. These problems are going to be a little bit more involved, but they're not too bad. So we have 7 times 5x minus 2 equals 6 times 6x minus 1. So for these problems, we do have a parentheses. So before we begin killing off the smaller x, we want to distribute inside the parentheses. So 7 times 5x is 35x. And 7 times negative 2 is negative 14 on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, we have 6 times 6x is 36x. And 6 times negative 1 is negative 6. Okay, so we took care of distribution. Notice that there are no like terms. And so we will move on to the second step of killing off the smaller x. For this problem, we have positive 35x on the left-hand side and positive 36x on the right-hand side. The smaller x then is the 35x. So that's the one that we kill off. And so we kill off by subtracting 35x. And then we need to do that to both sides. So on the left-hand side, we have negative 14. And on the right-hand side, we have x minus 6. From here, we will add 6 to both sides. And so on the left-hand side, we have negative 8 equals x, and that's it for this problem. Moving on to part B, we have 5x minus 4 times 3x minus 6 equals 6 times x minus 9. Okay, so just like the previous problem, our first step will be to distribute, because we do have this parentheses. And please do be very, very careful, right? We're distributing a negative 4. So the left-hand side gives us 5x, followed by negative 4 times 3x is negative 12x. And then negative 4 times negative 6 is positive 24 equals. And on the right-hand side, we have 6 times x is 6x. And then we have 6 times negative 9 is negative 54. Okay, now notice for this problem, there are 3 x terms. 2 of them on the left-hand side, right, 5x and negative 12x. And then 1 of them on the right-hand side, 6x. So what this means is because there are multiple x's on the same side, we need to simplify by collecting like terms first. So if you have positive 5 and we have negative 12, well, when we collect or combine these together, this will give us negative 7x. And then we follow up with the 24 equals 6x minus 54. Notice that when we are collecting like terms, we are simplifying on one side, right? I didn't add 12x to both sides. I didn't subtract 5x from both sides. I simply collected the x terms together. The reason why I'm trying to emphasize this is because this is the most common mistake that I see with Algebra 1 students. It's when you mix up combining like terms, which occurs on one side, versus trying to get x by itself, where we are undoing what has happened by performing the operation on both sides. Again, collecting like terms happens on one side, which is what we do when we have multiple terms on the same side. When we are trying to get x by itself, or when we're trying to kill off the x, that is done with math on both sides, which I've been using orange for in this entire set of notes. So now we have negative 7x plus 24 equals 6x minus 54. Our second step is to kill off the smaller x. And so the smaller x is the negative 7x. So we'll kill it off by adding 7x to both sides. On the left-hand side, this gives us 24. And on the right-hand side, we have 13x minus 54. From here, we'll add 54 to both sides. On the left-hand side, this gives us 78. On the right-hand side, we have 13x. From here, we'll divide both sides by 13 to get x by itself. And 78 divided by 13 is 6. So x equals 6 for this problem. Move on to the last problem. Just kidding, last two problems. 5 times x minus 3 plus 2x equals 49x plus 3. Okay, so first step, we'll distribute. 5 times x is 5x. 5 times negative 3 is negative 15. Plus 2x equals 49x plus 3. Okay, now that we are done simplifying, note that we have multiple x terms on the same side. We have let's use blue. We have the 5x and we have the 2x. So collecting those together, we really have 7x on the same side. And then minus 15 equals 49x plus 13. Okay, step 2, kill off the smaller x, which for this problem is going to be the 7x. So I will subtract 7x from both sides. On the left-hand side, this gives us negative 15. And on the right-hand side, we have 42x plus 3. From here, we will isolate x by first subtracting 3 from both sides, giving us negative 18 equals 42x. Divide both sides by 42, giving us x is equal to, well, what number goes into both 18 and 42? 6 does. So if I divide out by a 6, the top number will be negative 3, and the bottom number will be 7. So our solution is negative 3 over 7. So the takeaway with this problem is in the previous problem, you'll note that the like terms, right, the x terms, were right next to each other. For this problem, the like terms were not next to each other, but we combine them in the same way. Now for exercise D, we have 13 minus 2x plus 2 equals 2 times x plus 2 plus 3x. So just as before, first step is to simplify by distributing. Do note that the negative sign means that there is an invisible 1 here. So we have 13, negative 1 times 2x is negative 2x. Negative 1 times positive 2 is negative 2. Equals, distributing again, 2 times x is 2x. 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 3x. Okay, now notice on the left-hand side, we have like terms that are just numbers by themselves. And the right-hand side, we have like terms that are variable parts. So on the left-hand side, we are going to combine the 13 and the negative 2, which gives us 11 minus 2x. And on the right-hand side, combining the 2x and the 3x gives us 5x plus 4. From here, kill off the smaller x, which is going to be the negative 2x. So we will add 2x to both sides. Giving us 11 equals 7x plus 4. Now we will subtract 4 from both sides to get the 7x by itself. And lastly, divide both sides by 7 to get 1 equals x. And that's it for this set of notes.